So I start record this uh, talk on Zoom, and probably around 8 p.m. or so, our time, Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time. I'm gonna upload today's recording up on the Google Drive. Alrighty. So the first slide shows the channel. So this is the mindfully center approach, which I spent the past 5 years developing. And the initial intention was to have something that I can use as a Chinese medicine doctor that will address, not only the physical issue, which I think is important, but what I'm far more interested in was emotional perspective and our connection to loving kindness. Um, when I started the Chinese medicine school on the first semester, I talked to a teacher, a professor, about wanting to treat PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and he basically laughed at my face. Said it's very very difficult. It's basically out of my reach and stuff like that. But today I'm definitely doing it. Um, I run a fairly successful clinic, referral only, and um, my vow was to serve healers, and today I have many many traumatized healers coming to my clinic. So this approach, this mindfully centered approach, is really what I use in a clinic. Not only that, this is how I, strive to live my life, the same way. Why? Because the physical issue, emotional issue, perspective issues, and our, disconnection from loving kindness really, really affect our channels. Um, so this diagram here, to me, is very, very, I spent 5 years on it. Um, has gone through many, many revisions. And the reason is I want this to be useful, truly useful for myself and, for my clinical work. And so far, this is the latest revision of it. And I really do constantly reflect on it, test it, experiment with it, and see if there's anything I need to add or anything I need to delete. So so far, um, my intention for this seven talk really is to share, what I've learned so far. And with this approach, essentially, I don't look at the symptoms. People come in with knee pains, with stomach pain, or late stage kidney issues that's 2 months away from dialysis, or cancer, or anything along the line, or PTSD, or um, panic attack, depression, suicidal thoughts, and stuff like that. Basically, to me, I really use this approach, and my goal is really to share this so that other people can hopefully resonate with it and integrate whatever you feel comfortable or useful into your own approach. Your approach may be exactly the same as mine, but it has to be yours, because then you can use it, then you can apply it, then you can test it out, you can reflect on it, you can revise it, you can refine it. Eventually that become your lifetime principle. Then then we'll all be um, doing things and live our life, based on principles rather than um, if the wind blows a certain way, then we're affected. Right? So the end of the seventh talk on the seventh day, which is the Monday night, um, there's only one slide, and the slide is for all of us to be loving kindness lighthouses. That's really the end of this. That's really the goal for this entire mindfully centered approach. And um, and I appreciate everybody's presence here, for me to share what I know. Um, okay, so essentially, we have five senses. Right? All the senses that we have, the sight, the smell, hearing, taste, and touch. All these are designed to receive external stimulus. And what we have internally um, is really some kind of a judgment, right, based on this external stimulus. Um, then I go into, once we receive it, we're gonna act or feel or think or judge accordingly, right? So if we're doing everything just purely based on right or wrong, left or right, um, you know, just or injustice, then we are missing a whole lot of stuff. And this is basically what this talk is all about. Okay? So let's say I'm the person in the middle, and I'm kind of a medium size. And I see people, that's in front of me that's bigger, and people that's behind me that's shorter. So if I rely on my senses, then I'm smaller than the bigger guy, bigger person, and I'm bigger than the smaller person. Um, so once I sense that, I can either accept it, then I'll have peace, or I accept, I am somewhere in the middle, or maybe I'm the smallest, and I accept that. Um, Oops, I just click on something, something disappear. Okay. Or I feel like I can change. I can eat better, sleep better, maybe jump rope better, so I can improve. And hopefully, I'm getting close to the bigger person. And this can apply to any skills or any development, any growth, right? Any personal growth, any spiritual growth. It's basically the same. So the sense that I am not the same as another person in itself is relatively benign. But what if we start to feel like inferior? This person has a better family, parents are more loving, more kind than mine, and my parents may be alcoholic. What if I start to compare my situation against other people? If I feel inferior, then I have low self esteem. If I feel superior, then I have a different mindset. If I feel it's completely injustice, for me to have my parents are just not right, then I will feel that I'm a victim. So then we suffer. So this seemingly neutral sense of judgment, depending on how we use it, um, can have very, very dramatic effects. So what we're hoping to do is to say, I have a purpose, I have a heart of gold, and if I connect to loving kindness, then I will see everybody has a heart of gold and everybody has their own sense of purpose. Okay. So the same diagram can change. So let's say if all of us have heart of goals and all of us are connected to loving kindness, or at least I am connected to loving kindness. So when I see other people, I see their heart of goals. And I receive the same stimulus. I experience the same experience. And my sense of judgment, the sense of right and wrong, just or unjust, is very, very minimal, very, very faint. So I can still accept what's going on in my life, my experience, then I have peace. Or if I feel so empowered to change, then I will improve it. If I can see that everybody else has a heart of gold, and we can all connect to loving kindness, then I have a tremendous sense of unconditional love for everybody. If I find something that um, let me see what I covered. If I find something that I am facing, and then I smile and feel like, okay, what's the most important thing I can do at this moment? If I go to the doctor and the doctor told me I have cancer, Can I have a state of mind that what's the most important thing I can do right now, instead of why me? How can this possibly happen to me? So again, if we're really connected, then um, we will pause and observe and really figure out what's the most present. How present can we be to resolve whatever that we're feeling or sensing right now. So we all have these five senses. This is another way to show what we just talked about. So if we use judgment, which is the sense of right and wrong, then we'll probably feel injustice, um, unfair, and then we'll suffer. If we really can, when we are feeling what we're feeling, when we're having our senses, and we have the sense of purpose, and we connect to loving kindness, then we can live in the present time. We can be now. We can do empowering actions. We will have clarity instead of risk assessment. So the sense of purpose is, to me, is tremendously important. Um, and this doesn't mean that, okay, I have cancer right now, I'm going to fight it and I'm going to try to survive. Then after that, I'll find my purpose. No, if I'm going through cancer right now, I have a purpose. I always have a purpose, regardless how, what condition am I in. I have a purpose. I don't know what that purpose is, but I do have a purpose. So if we have this mindset, the world is very, very different. I know we all try to find our purpose, right? There are tons of rooms that talk about what's your purpose. Have you found your purpose? What's your purpose in life? And to me, my honest answer is I don't know. I don't know what my purpose is, but I do know I have a purpose. When I was going through the seven talk series, I do this in Chinese in the morning and English in the afternoon. There are people who stopped by, listened, and changed. You know, and I see that as part of my purpose. I really don't know who's going to show up. I don't know if my words can resonate with somebody, and they will take it and they will change themselves. I don't know. I really don't. But I do know is I have a purpose, and I feel very strongly, at this point in my life, is to share with the world as much as I can what I know. So if somebody just happened to stop by and listen and resonate, and they actually take action and they live a better life, to me that's great. If nobody comes in, that is just as great in my mind, because I'm really doing this to fulfill my sense of purpose. I'm not doing this with full expectation there's a whole lot of people or a whole lot of changes. I'm not doing this to help people because I know it's not possible for me to help anybody. Nobody can help another person. All healings come from within. All we can do is share. So my purpose, I really don't know it. When I switched from my engineering career to Chinese medicine school, 5 years. This is about 5 6 years ago. I went from a six-figure salary to zero, and today I'm reasonably heavy in debt. And people ask me, my family still asks me today, why did you do this? How can you do this? My honest answer is I don't know. I just have a sense it's my calling. It's something I got to do. I have no reason. I have no excuse. I have no, supporting evidence to back me up to say, okay, if I take this route, I'm going to be just as successful in terms of financially, you know, as my engineering career. I have absolutely no idea. Today, I still don't know how it's going to go. So if we have a sense of purpose, everything is interesting. Everything. Any hardship that we're going through, any illness that we're going through, if we wake up and our 2 years ago, I woke up and my right hip just wouldn't move. And for like 3 months, I was hobbling. I was in severe, severe pain. Every time I get in the car, I have to wait for like 5 or 10 minutes just for that pain to subside enough for me to drive. And when I get off the car, boy, that was excruciating. But through that whole time, I know there's a purpose for that pain. I keep asking myself, I keep asking the universe, let me learn. I really want to understand this. And 3 months later, I learned a lot from those pain. And today I can treat, sciatica pain, basically anybody who comes in, with some kind of a structural pain, that's, the tailbone was off, because this person was roller skating when she was 6 or something like that. Um, or in my case, in many people's case, they fall off a bike and they injure their rib. And once, if one side of the rib is injured ever so slightly, the pelvis will start to move, in 10, 20 years time. So there's a whole lot of things that I learned, through that time period of time of 2, 3 months of, just severe, severe pain. So I don't know, and I have patients, cancer patients coming in, 2 years ago they had cancer. And today they just feel like they're living the best days of their lives. In fact, one lady remembered that she was, praying to God that my life has to change. I want to change my life. She suffered a lot of childhood abuse. And guess what? She got cancer. And today she actually looked back and say, John, you know, I really got what I wished for. I really got what I prayed for. I got the change I need. But at the point of cancer, she was suffering. She was so worried and she was angry. But today she could do a whole lot. She lost a lot of weight. She changed her perspective. Um, she has a tremendous, far more sense of purpose, and she's rebuilding the relationship with her parents. Through trauma, we just don't know. So the sense that I have a purpose, we might as well incorporate that right now. The childhood that we have, the trauma that we went through, whatever physical, emotional, or sexual trauma that we went through, you know give it a purpose. Assume it has a purpose, because once we see something that may have a purpose, we start to ask a different question. We start to ask, what's the purpose for that? Maybe there's a purpose. Instead of why me, instead of feel just completely being a victim. We have gone through what we have gone through. Let's make the best use for it. Because once we find a purpose for that, every experience is a puzzle piece that will eventually shape our overall sense of life. And every experience is important. A lot of us just try not to have the same experience over and over again. I have a patient coming in, after 7 abusive relationships or marriages, she finally said, John, I think it's me. She finally accepted that piece of the puzzle to say all these events leads to, her own self, childhood abuse. And she doesn't trust men. that she has a lot of triggers in her heart. Whenever somebody get close, she has to kick them out. She has to do something before it gets too close that can, severely hurt her. And once she acknowledged that, she's ready and willing to heal, and then the healing comes really quick. So in my clinic, we do heart-based healing. Okay, instead of techniques that focus mostly on control, try to control our emotions and not to think about it, or um, try to avoid triggers, right? Try to forgive as if we can forgive, right? Not many people can forgive outright and forget. So these are the normal techniques that's very prevalent. So in our clinic, we don't do any of those. We just basically say everything has a purpose. It's not about right and wrong. It's about something that has happened already. To fight, for example, cancer, to feel like, okay, this should not have happened. I eat so clean, I exercise every day, I meditate, I do yoga, and I'm just, how can this possibly happen to me? That is arguing with reality. It doesn't serve any purpose. It actually weakens our channel systems. And with the weakened channel systems, it's hard to get rid of or to stop the spreading of cancer cells or their growth. So that's how we treat cancer in the clinic. So instead of saying, people, cancer patients come in and say, "Oh, I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm going to survive cancer," and they're counting the years, how many years they have survived. I honestly, I look into their eyes and I say, "You're not going to survive cancer anymore. You're going to thrive." And many of them have tears when they hear this, because once they accept that they can thrive, once they know they have choices, no matter what their condition is, they can thrive. Their whole energy system changes. Their whole outlook, their whole perspective in life changes. They don't look cancer the same way ever again. It's not something that robbed them of their youth or their health or their hair or anything like that anymore. It's an experience that they had. And it's an experience that changed their entire life. And how they decided to live every day the rest of their lives is their choice. They can either try to survive, which continue to feel like a victim from cancer, or they can thrive. Like a small wildflower in the city, in the crack of a concrete, any amount of soil, water, sunlight, and they will just thrive. Human is the only species or the only being that doubt our own sense of purpose. Nothing else does that. So that's why when we see photos, of a wildflower in the concrete jungle, right, or a tree that grow on the side of a cliff, um, or a person without an arm or without a leg that's climbing the Alps, we're deeply moved. Why? Because within us we resonate with the sense of thriving, the sense that I have a purpose no matter what my condition is. So people ask me, it's like, "John, okay, what if I'm on my deathbed? Okay, this is my very last breath. What's my purpose?" I say, if we, let's say I am on my last breath and this is my last inhale. If on my last inhale, I connect for my heart to go through loving kindness to all the people I love, all the friends I know, and I inhale, however shallowly. And on my exhale, I do exactly the same thing. I'll be gone in peace. I'll be leaving this world in utter peace. And all the people that has a chance to experience this, my loved ones, my friends, or people who know me, they will have peace as well. To me, that will be my purpose. My purpose is to live my life to the fullest. I want to connect to loving kindness, and from loving kindness to connect to everyone that I ever know. That's what I want to do. If I do that, I feel I am thriving, no matter what my condition is. So in my clinic, we define healing not as healed from a physical wound or be able to walk again or have no pain ever, or that diabetes somehow doesn't need medication. you know all these things happen, they do happen, but that is not the definition of healing in my clinic. The definition of healing in my clinic is our heart connection to loving kindness. Because to me, any other form of any other definition of healing eventually fail. Then we couldn't do it anymore. Eventually, we'll have to go. Sooner or later, peacefully or by accident. But on our very last breath, as long as we have conscious, as long as we're still mindful, we can still connect our heart to loving kindness. We can still do that. And to me, that's beautiful healing. I have a patient, he texted me maybe a year or two ago. His name is Greg. He texted me and said, John, I have 3 weeks to live. I look at the text. I didn't know what to say. So I paused for a moment and asked myself, connecting to loving kindness, and say, what's the most important thing I can do right now? And within 5 seconds, I have this sense of clarity is I'm going to hold his hands. So I reply his text and say, Greg, I want to hold your hand. Okay. Tell me when I can come in. If you don't reply within 3 hours, something like that, I'm going to kick open your door and hold your hand. And he replied and he said, okay, John, come in Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning, which I did. I saw him. Then I just held his hand in his sofa. And all we do is connect his heart to loving kindness. And we connect to each other. And I asked him to connect to all the people that he loved. And we did that for an hour. And we agreed that I'm going to visit him every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday until he died, no matter what his condition is. And I show up Thursday at 11 o'clock. His wife opened the door and she said, Greg passed away yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, while his wife and his son were talking to a hospice nurse. And he was sitting on the exact place in the sofa. And he passed away without a sound. And my dad passed away in my arms, basically the same way. So when we have a sense of purpose and we say, then everything is very, very curious. Everything is very interesting. Everything is about what's the most important thing I can do right now. We all hear this, right? There's a great book called The Power of Now. And that, to me, that's how my practice is. I'm not saying this is the only practice, but this is how I practice it. What's the most empowering thing I can do right now? And I can always change, because 5 minutes later, what's the most empowering thing I can do right now? And I can totally reverse what I just did 5 minutes ago. And to me, there's no issue, because every moment may require a completely different thing. For example, compassion, right? We all want to be compassionate. We all want to do good things, right? But what does compassion really mean? To me, compassion has no definition. You cannot define what a compassionate act or list of acts are. For example, is killing compassionate? If I'm in the schoolyard full of students and there's a gunman coming in, I'm going to kill this person right on the spot if I have a chance. Because to me, that will be the most compassionate. That will be the most empowering thing I can do at that moment. This person still has a heart of gold, but his behavior needs to be stopped. But 5 minutes later, if there's a madman, if there's a person that's just coming to the schoolyard and shouting and everything else, I would take a different action. So again, I have a purpose means whatever happened to us may mean something. And I have many patients, once they recover, once they connect back to loving kindness, they will tell me, it's like, John, all these things, everything that I've gone through. This is a quote from my one of my patient. It's like she sees those experiences, gifts wrapped up in barbed wires. It was so painful, but she could see like all these pain and suffering eventually push her far enough to say, I have a choice. I'm going to love unconditionally now. I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not going to feel this is total injustice. I'm not going to ask the question of why me anymore, because that didn't work. That makes me even more miserable. I honestly have seen people with severe, severe trauma. And when they have gone through that and when they heal, they're just full of gifts. Their heart are so, so pure. They're so kind. So when we have use the lens, use the sense, use the perspective that I have a purpose, that everything we have gone through, we can look at, in a different light now. And hopefully they will turn into experience plus wisdom. Also, when I feel I have a purpose, I feel I belong. I was the least experienced acupuncturist basically anywhere, but honestly, I feel I belong. No matter where I go, no matter what I share, I feel like either I'm going to make a complete fool of myself so I can learn better, or I'm here to share something that may, resonate with somebody and be of use. I don't know, but I know I belong. I know wherever I am, I belong there. I'm not going to feel small. I belong means I may be the smallest blade of grass among giant sequoia trees, but I have just as much right to thrive as anything around me. Anything. So this, just very simple idea. Okay, this is not positive thinking. This is not trying to make things look beautiful, more positive. Look at the bright side. No, I have a purpose. To me, is absolute truth. Look around us. Everything has a purpose. Everything is fulfilling. Doing everything it can to fulfill its own purpose. We are, again, human is the only being that would doubt that we have no purpose, or continue to question. And I think that's why we can be miserable or we can be enlightened. It's the same mechanism. And when we're finally, committed to that, I have a purpose, and we're going to start to feel grateful for just about everything that happened to us. Our sense of, this or that, and this should be or that should not be, will disappear. Instead, everything that happened to us, we'll be able to face it with a sense of gratitude. Okay, going to the next slide. Loving kindness. So what's loving kindness? Okay, again, I don't know. I can't define it, but I know there's loving kindness. I've felt it. Um, when I felt it, it felt like I was going home. I was going home to a place where there's there's abundance of unconditional love, and that I can be supported no matter what I've done. That will nourish me no matter how depleted I am. And there's tremendous light no matter how dark I feel. And when I was home in unconditional love, I have like two experiences in my life. I would just continue to cry. I would sob. I would cry. It wasn't. It wasn't that I was, sad or anything like that. It's not a sadness cry. It's a sense that, I'm always supported. I'm always understood. I'm always accepted. I'm always treasured. I'm always valued. And I'm always whole. I thought I was broken, but I wasn't. And after I cry, as if I'm washing myself clean, then I can move on again. Then that sense of I have a purpose become even stronger. And this may be a chicken and egg thing, right? It's like, okay, do I feel I have a purpose first, so I will have that experience, or do I need that experience to really feel like I have a purpose? I don't know. But all I can suggest is let's just commit to I have a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. So when my kids are on drugs, my parents are old, I wouldn't feel like I have to do something. I have to I have to be responsible for them. Even though I'm knee deep in my own grief, I'm knee deep in my own suffering. Even if they don't want anything to do with me, I'll be able to take a look. I'll be able to look at this and say, I have a purpose, and all my loved ones have their own purpose as well. All I can do, and the very best I can do, the most empowering thing I can do, is to learn to love unconditionally. So when they finally come home, they feel they are forever supported and loved and treasured, and their heart was never broken. So what's broken? We do feel like our heart, is broken at times, but what's really broken is our connection. Our heart is always golden. Okay, it says in the Bible. Okay, when we accept Jesus Christ as our Savior, then we're saved. There's no requirement. There's no requirement like, okay, your heart is broken into 10 pieces, so it's going to take, this however much long for you to be saved. or if it's broken into 1,000 pieces, it will take much, much longer. In Buddhism, it says the same thing. The salvation or the saved or enlightenment is instantaneous. Why? Because the connection is made. It's like our phone doesn't work. I can't call, I can't receive any messages. But it turns out, my Wi-Fi is off. It's the connection. And once the connection is back, I'm okay. It's all functional, as if nothing ever happened. All my grief was to say, the phone is broken. It's the connection that's broken. And to rebuild that connection, to reconnect, it's based on our own choice. A choice that can never be taken away. A choice that, we can all connect to loving kindness right now if we want to. There's no requirement. So in loving kindness, it's our birthright. Loving kindness is our birthright. Connecting to loving kindness is our birthright. And one story that moved me very, very deeply is how Christ died. I'm not a Christian, but this story moved me very, very deeply. He was betrayed by one of his disciples. He was nailed to a cross. He was harassed, injured, shamed by Roman soldiers, and he continued to love them unconditionally. So he continued to make his choice. And to me, this story really touched me because he truly died for human, for the humankind. He really died for all of us, not to save our sin, in my opinion, but to demonstrate that despite all that, we can still love unconditionally. We still have a choice. And this was demonstrated, documented in many, 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 many cases. In the Nazi concentration camp, there are many people who survived because they have a connection. They didn't feel like they were a complete victim. They were not broken. Their connections were not broken. But many, many, many others whose connection were broken, they die horribly. And loving kindness is timeless and spaceless. So if we have loved ones who have passed away, we can still connect to them. We can still heal from the sense of loss by connecting to them. I have a patient from Canada. When she saw me, she was probably like 35 years old. When her grandpa died, her family didn't, when her grandpa was about to die, her family didn't notify her. So she missed the chance to see her grandpa for the last time. And after that, she was, just not happy. She was suffering. She felt the family kept something from her, her last chance to see her grandpa, who really showed her what unconditional love meant to her. So when she came to me, she was very, very anxious. She had basically a panic attack. So we backtrace, and discover that, okay, she had this trauma that she's been hanging on, and that's causing her suffering because it wasn't right. It was not, how can my family did this to me? She was, still furious when she talked to me about that. So what we did was very, very simple. Ask her, are you ready to heal? And she said yes. So I put her on the table, ask her to have this tremendous sense that she has a purpose in her heart, and her heart is golden. And through her third eye, or in between her eyebrows, she connect to loving kindness. And through loving kindness, connect to her grandpa's heart of gold. And for 60 seconds, she would say from her heart, she actually spoke French. So she actually pronounced, this in French. and saying, Grandpa, I love you unconditionally. From her heart through her throat and just make sounds. And she said it one time, two times for the entire 60 seconds. And she was emotional, she was crying, she was sobbing uncontrollably. And finally, she smiled beautifully. And she said, Grandpa is pushing me on the swing. And after that, the unconditional love connection between her and her grandpa was restored. This is what I see. I always feel like I have the best seat in the house, in the clinic, right? Because I do see these things happen, and they happen so quickly, within a minute. I really have a clock on the wall that has this second hand that I really look in just 1 minute. So to me, connection to loving kindness and to others is the ultimate expression of personal power. For a lot of people, it wasn't easy at all. For people who were raped by their own parents, for example, to connect back to their parents' heart or goal, that's unthinkable. But when they do that, they heal because our heart always want to connect back to our parents unconditionally. Our brain says no way. Remember what happened? So we live in this conflict between our brain and our heart, and that's suffering. So when the brain and the heart are not aligned, that's when we suffer. When our brain and our hearts are aligned, there's no suffering. Both are going in the same direction. There's no suffering. So I have an 80-year-old patient. She was raped by her dad when she was 12. So she carried that pain or suffering for 70 years. Her husband was so loving to her. Still is still so loving for her. And I can see in his eyes, it's like, you know, can, please heal. I please stop suffering. So I told her this, right? I told her about this in order for her to heal. She came to me, with a completely different reason, but we backtraced to, her unhealed needs were basically because she was carrying the suffering. Okay, so this is how physical or emotional trauma or emotional suffering affect our channels, and in turn, it will affect us physically. Okay, I see this honestly all the time. Very, very apparent. So I talked to her about this, right? And said, well, in order for you to truly heal yourself and truly recover, is to connect back to your dad's heart or goal and just love him unconditionally. And she looked at me as if she's gonna hit me right in the nose. And she asked, it's like, what do you want me to do? How can you possibly ask me to do this? How can you possibly ask me to do this for this animal? I said, you wouldn't be doing this for your dad. You'll be doing this for yourself. And she refused that day. She didn't want to do this at all. She was actually furious. She felt like she was insulted. She came back and she said, then I asked her again, do you want to give it a try? All you got, and you've been suffering for 70 years. Just try it for a minute. And she was laying on the bed and she was struggling. She wanted to try it, but her brain wouldn't allow her to. And she was rigid, and she looked at me and she looked at her husband, and a good 10 minutes went by, and finally she said, John, I'm ready. I'm going to do it just for 1 minute. And we went through the same routine. I have a purpose in her heart, connection to loving kindness through her third eye, And through that third eye, try as hard as she could to connect to her dad's heart of gold. It wasn't easy at all. That was a very, very difficult connection. When she was making that connection, there were so many thoughts. Her ego brain was throwing so many obstacles at her. I can see that in her face, in her clenched fists. But finally, she made the first phrase: Dad, I love you unconditionally. And she kept that on for 1 minute. And after that, she was never the same. When we do that, what we're really doing is to confirm that our heart was never broken, to confirm that we still have a choice to love unconditionally. These two things are just so valuable, so valuable, but we don't believe we have them. So with this is I conclude today's talk. Um, I welcome all questions or comments. Um, this is a it's today's talk is just two concepts. I have a purpose, and I connect to loving kindness, and that's it. Okay, it sounds almost comical, but this I've seen over and over again. This is useful. This is powerful. The real tools, the real healing requires something that's extremely simple. It's not complicated because it's a heart to heart connection. It's a heart to heart healing. It is not using our judgmental brain trying to solve judgmental brain issues. It's not using our differentiating mind to solve judgmental problems. That's why a lot of the therapy or groups, to me, you know, I would say 80% of my patients have gone through 10 plus years of therapy. But when they use the heart to heart technique, right, like we just described, when they are ready, okay, the key phrase is they need to be ready. This is not an easy thing to do, but when people are ready and they're willing, it takes a minute. It's like two-year-old, arguing, fighting, both are crying and angry and everything else, right? And the adults don't know what to do with them. They can analyze, okay, use your conscious mind, use your subconscious, or do meditation, da, da. Honestly, all they got to do is for one kid to open his or her arms and for the other kid to do the same. And they have a hug and it's over. And it's over. Everything's over. There's no right or wrong. That is true healing. In true healing, there's no sense of right or wrong because it's a heart to heart, heart to heart to goal connection through loving kindness. When we do that, there's no right or wrong. It may sound absurd, but that's what it is. That's why we can say, okay, we accept Jesus Christ as our Savior, then we're saved. What if I'm a murderer? What if I have killed 10,000 people? No, that was my behavior. So a lot of things may not be easy to accept, right? But for our own personal healing, to accept that our parents have a heart of gold, I think it's a great, great, great step forward. As long as we say, I have a heart of gold, and through loving kindness, I connect to my parents, no matter what they have done, then we'll be free. I've treated many, people with alcohol issues and stuff like that. They grew up in alcoholic families. The last person they want to become is an alcoholic. They resisted their parents so much. They hated them. But the more we resist, the more we try to avoid being like our parents, the more we'll be like just like our parents. Until we can connect to our parents' heart of gold through loving kindness to their heart of gold. They also have a heart of gold. They also struggle. They also don't want to be like their parents. We're all, every one of us is experiencing things that's had going on for generations. The key is, are we going to be the person who heal first? And when we heal, we truly heal everyone before us, all generation before us, and all generations after us. And with that, I wish we all have a tremendous sense of purpose and connect to loving kindness. Yeah, please share your thoughts. So on Zoom, we have a message from the chat window. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have appointments, so I have to go soon. I've been working with concepts from the book, Alchemy of the Heart. To me, I can resonate with what you're saying from what I've been learning also. It's an honor to hear from your own experience. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Okay, so we have somebody's coming up. Yeah, Julie, please share. Thank you. Julie, can you speak up a little bit so the Zoom side can hear you too? Yeah, thank you. The question is, do I know my purpose? I don't know. I know I have a purpose. I know I have purpose. I mean, for coming up with this title, I kind of struggle a little bit, right? I want to say I have a purpose or I have purpose, um, but so that's when words are hard to explain. What I really mean is I have a purpose all the time. Um, so anything that happened may have its own purpose. I can be going through I could be going through a divorce and the kids are separating from me. I have cancer. My house is, in default, right? And all these, I will still think I have a purpose. Um, and really, because when I feel that way, when I say that, when I commit to that thought, when that is my firm belief, then I can be far better to live in the present time. Um, yeah, I hope that answer your question. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So the question is, 50% of the marriage in the U.S. end up in divorce. Should each partner use, or each person partner use unconditional love to connect to each other? Yes, I think ideally that's the case, right? But unconditional love doesn't mean we're going to be staying together or we're not going to be separating from each other. It just means we're going to love each other unconditionally. We're going to love each other's heart unconditionally. But doesn't mean we're going to accept every the whole all the behaviors that person is exhibiting. So unconditional love doesn't mean we have no boundary. We still have our perfect boundary. In fact, we'll have much better boundary when we love unconditionally, because we can say no, we can protect ourselves, we know ourselves. To love unconditionally means we love ourselves unconditionally too, because otherwise it will be conditional. If we only love another person or other people unconditionally, that's conditional, right? So to love unconditionally the best we can means that we love ourselves as well. So when two people together at first and they get married, they have the most beautiful intention to stay together, to work out things, and to continue to grow in their lives. What if things change? What if they start to grow in different path? What if, right? There are many conditions people separate or people divorce, not because they don't see eye to eye, but because things change. Their sense of purpose change, right? Or they fell in love with another person that they don't know why. Maybe the original marriage, after so many years have served, has served its own purpose. I don't know. But the thing I do know is when these things happen, we can still connect to the person that we married. We can connect to that person's heart of gold and still love that person unconditionally. And then we can move on with our lives. To me, especially families with divorce, divorced family with children, when the parents fight and they don't see eye to eye and they hate each other, the kids are the sufferers. The kids suffer greatly because of that. So I always feel like, okay, even in divorced families, if the parents, and this is what I advise to, I have kids who are suicidal, and the parents are, divorced like 10 years ago, and the kids are suicidal. I said to the parents, it's like the first thing you guys got to do, connect to each other's heart and love each other unconditionally. Stop hating each other. Stop blaming each other. Stop pointing fingers at each other, because otherwise your kids have to choose a side. Which side should the kid choose? Father's side or mom's side? He couldn't choose. And he felt he was so torn in between. And that's suffering by itself. I this concept of unconditional love, especially like um, romantic relationships, it's like, okay, we go from one relationship to the next, and in order to do that we have to hate or to dissociate or to disconnect from the previous, our ex, basically. We have to somehow find ways to disengage with our ex, right? And I work with people and they say, John, this is really weird, but I'm with my current boyfriend, and every time we're together, I feel like I keep thinking about the other one, whom, and that person betrayed me, right? And I say, well, the best thing you can do is to love that person unconditionally. Then you're free. It's the same thing with our parents. When we resist our parents so much and we feel like we're, you know, betrayed by our parents, we're abused by our parents, that's when we continue to suffer. And in order to be free, just use unconditional love. This connection is our choice, and it's always available. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for your explanation. It's very helpful for me to understand. Maybe not fully understand it. I need time to digest it because you deep that question so deep and appreciate it. So I will listen to you. If no people ask you question, I have one more question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
you talk about suffering. Suffering just because uh, brain and heart not aligned. So my question is, if in your heart you hate this person, you brain think logically think you hate this person, looks they are aligned, but they still suffer. So maybe what do you think?
Yes. So I haven't seen this, but theoretically, yes. If this person, in this person's heart, the heart hates this another person, and um, and there's a action against this person, and they're fully aligned, then there's no suffering. A lot of times that's called righteous anger. Okay, righteous anger allows the person to kill, to destroy without mercy. Okay, that's called righteous anger. Righteous anger is not coming from love. Righteous anger is coming from hate. And why would the person have hate so much? It's because of sympathy, the judgment, the sense of injustice. Righteous anger allows, um, suppressed people who, or people who feel they were suppressed, to rise up violently, to destroy everything inside, to burn up buildings, burn cars, and basically burn up their own neighborhood. That's called righteous anger. And righteous anger, to me, is the worst kind of energy in the world. And it has a sense that I am a victim. It's like I'm being cornered to I'm being cornered by to no end. Then I finally fight back. That's the sense of righteousness. So in righteousness, um, it's a very, very, to me, it's a very extreme, and I've seen that. It's a very extreme form of um, judgmental mind that just completely cover up the heart. So it feels like the heart is not responding. But I've also talked to people, in their 40s or 50s. When they were 20s, they're just full of righteous anger. They want to destroy everything. But when they get older, when they start to have their own kids, when they start to have their own relationship, when they start to love another person, they changed. When their hearts start to come up a little bit, they just couldn't do what they did before. So yeah, that's a great question. And when we talk about healing, to me, the heart always want to love. That's what I observe. You know, um, can the heart hate? Can it, to me, it's not the heart that's hating. It's the heart has no say in this. When a person is in this righteous mode, um, and again, righteousness allow people to just kill without mercy. It's to destroy without regard of anything, without even self-protection. That's how destructive that power is. Yeah, hope this answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So where did you got so many wisdoms? So learn by the book or your personal experience or you got from your mentor? I just very curious. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. You know, um, your curiosity of how I come up with these sayings, right, or these words. I think ultimately it's because I feel I have a purpose, and I still don't know what my purpose is. And so everything that happened to me, when I observe things, I tend to observe and say, what's the purpose of that? Why am I experiencing this, or hearing this, or learning this, or suffering through this? I really do ask myself that question, and when I do, I generally have some kind of an answer. As I reflect, then I have clarity. And when I speak, I I practice to speak from my heart. Like every talk in this 7 talk series, all I have are the slides, and the slides are very, very minimal. And I don't know what I'm going to speak this time. But what I do is I speak from my firsthand experience, and I do speak from my heart. Um, from a heart that's connected to loving kindness and connect to everybody here and beyond. That's really my practice. Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a very very good question. Okay, we got about another 15 minutes, and yeah, I would really appreciate people, coming up, friends come up and share your thoughts, your comments, or any questions, because that allows me. Because what I share are principles, and principles are kind of cut and dry. But when I'm asked a question or if I'm responding to something, then a lot of things start to flow. Okay, when I speak from my heart, it's hard to come up with something. It has to resonate with something. It's like if you hit my bell, then my bell will start to ring. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Sorry, if no one asks, I have one more question.
Yeah, please,
So
Julie.
yeah, I love the book Eckhart Tolle. The book you said, The Power of Now. So in this book, his idea is we should accept what happened to you, surround it, but like American spirit, you should fighting back. So can you explain a little bit between this kind of conflict thoughts?
Yes.
You should surround it or you should fighting back?
So to me, I asked the question. So I don't like to let go of things. I like to pick things up. Okay, there's a difference. I don't, I don't advise my patients to say, okay, you're gonna let go of your suffering. No, instead, we practice facing the sun. Okay, facing the sun means I have a purpose and I connect to loving kindness, and to me, that's it. Okay, so instead of saying I'm not gonna be angry, I'm not gonna be sad, I'm not gonna this and this, I'm not gonna be jealous, I'm not gonna be you know doubtful or whatever, right? Because then we'll be using our judgmental mind, we'll be using our ego to resolve ego created problems. So we need to actively, constantly active our heart the best we can. So I read the book, The Power of Now, and it actually changed. It does have tremendous effect on me. Just the concept of the power of now to me is tremendous, right? But I do have a different way to access it. My because when I do this in the clinic, I need something that's very very short, something that's very very effective. Many times my patients would tell me, and say, John, you know what? This is funny. When I encounter a situation, I will hear your words. You know, I will hear you saying, "What's the most empowering thing I can do right now?" Then we'll just have a good laugh, right? Because when we ask that question, we we focus on what's going on right now, not our experience, not our past experience. So in his book, I read it so many years ago, at least 10, 15 years ago, and I have many copies that I give to other people. Um, you know, so instead of saying, um, letting go of, all the thoughts that may come up, I just focus on what's going on right now. What's the most empowering thing I can do right now? So I don't carry any baggage with me. I don't carry my past experience. If somebody who has, you know, owed me, $100 10 times and never pay me back and want to borrow another $100, I would say, ask myself, what's the most empowering thing for me to do right now? Instead of saying, okay, this guy has cheated me 10 times. So that's a list I'll be carrying, right? We all carry all these lists. And that's, to me, that's baggage. That's something in the past, and we all try to use what's happening in the past to judge what we're going to do right now, but that to me is not empowering. Maybe this person comes in, asking for another $100 because he really, really, truly needed it. If I, based on my past experience, and said, no, I'm not going to give you anything, even though I can, I'll be missing doing what's most empowering at that time. So that's honestly that's how I practice this. Okay, because to me, I see, honestly, I see myself, I see my patients as my parents. I I want to serve. I'm not helping people. I can't. Nobody can help another person. So I, you know, I made a vow to serve healers. I made a vow to serve people who have trauma. Um, and in order to do that, we need to do what's most empowering right now. We need to bring trauma people. Trauma makes a person live basically in the past, and they try to foresee the future from their past experience. So there's so much anxiety, hypervigilance, calculation, risk assessment. Um, just life is very, very difficult. But when they're in the clinic and their channels are going well and they're present in their body, they're more in the now, and they continue to use these simple tools to say, what's the most important thing I can do right now? Or this, this almost comical thing like, okay, I have a heart of gold, and through my heart of gold, I connect to loving kindness. And these are powerful tools, when we really use it from our heart. If it's, some people will hear this and use it from their brain. It doesn't work that way. Then there's no true energy. But if we truly activate our heart, we can feel physically that our body is changing. Our channels are changing. Our brain is buzzing. Our midbrain is energized. We'll have clarity. Our posture will be better. All these are empowering things that we can do wherever we are. It's our choice. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Julie.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's me. I always make a decision based on previous experience. So I will try different way, ask the question, what should I do? What right now is most important for me? It's so helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. So first, honestly, the phrase, okay, what's the most empowering thing I can do right now, really comes from my experience with my own kids. Okay, so I have four kids. They all go through, teenager years, and they all, have their own growth, right? They all have their own thing that they have to take care of, right? So for a period of time, our relationship was not well. Okay. Um, Initially, I was really sad or upset or angry or, just all kinds of mixed emotions until I asked myself, what's the most important thing I can do right now when when things are not going well? And I will have clarity. I will not take things personally because my intention is to love my kids. But if I feel so sad and angry and start yelling at them, or I feel so depressed that I want to, I just want to shut down myself, right? That wouldn't fulfill my intention. That action would not be aligned with my intention. So my kids really help me. I mean, honestly, I have a purpose. It really means that, when my kids and I were going through tough times, what's the purpose of that? And through that, honestly, I learned so many valuable lessons. Many other people, if they don't feel that there's a purpose in everything, these are nightmare times. But to me, when my kids, we are going through that tough time, what's the purpose? What's the purpose for me? And what's the purpose for them? I honestly come out with a conclusion. Okay. My purpose is to be ready as a parent, as a dad. as a friend, to be ready. To be ready means I have, if they, if they knock on my door and come in and say, Dad, can I talk to you? I wouldn't yell at them and say, now what do you want? And guess what? They're going to disappear. My response would be, absolutely, as if nothing ever happened. I don't want to hold anything because that's not empowering. That's not my intention. Again, my intention is to love my kids as unconditionally as I possibly can. When I hold anything, I wouldn't be as good as I wanted to be. So a lot of these are just our decision. It's about seeing things and see where we want to go. What's our intention and what's our action. If I'm driving and I want to get home safely, if somebody cut me off and I go into a rage and I start chasing that car and make everybody on the road unsafe, my action would not be aligned with my intention. And we do this all the time with the people that we care about. So every the tools that the principle that we shared are really meant to solve or to resolve the best we can everyday issues. Okay, not big issues. Everyday issues. We all have everyday little things, little things, little things. Okay, all these principles need to be able to resolve the littlest thing to the greatest things. That's what a principle means. Okay, it's like gravity works on feathers and spaceships because they're gravity. It's gravity. It applies to everything. So the things that we share here, okay, um, I really wish that we would take this, in our heart and just try it. I'm not asking anybody to trust and to follow. Okay, that just doesn't mean anything. It's to try it out, and if it works, integrate it into your own set of principles, how you live your life, because that's the only way it will work. This is not another book that you will read, right? Another knowledge that we'll gain. No, not like that. This is something that we can, truly experience from our heart. And if we do this one time, two times, three times, then we start to integrate that into, every aspect of our lives. And our life will be far more interesting that way. Yeah. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. If we can have one more question, that would be great.
Thank you very much. Some people said only you go through with suffering, you then can dig a certain life. Okay? So do you think that where we have to go through the suffering?
Um, do we have to go through suffering to realize or to understand, right?
Yeah, understand the life.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Actually, that's how I see in the clinic. Okay, um, my belief is the universe has always been conspiring, has been planning, okay, to heal us, but it couldn't heal us directly, okay, because if it could, it would have healed everybody already, right? Even Jesus couldn't heal us all, right? We have to accept Jesus as our savior, then we're saved. This is, in the Bible. In Buddhism, it's basically the same thing. So all these enlightened beings, all these powerful beings, all these, spiritual um, powerhouse couldn't just save us, couldn't just, release all our sufferings. Interesting, right? Interesting, very, very interesting, right? We say God is almighty and Buddha is, ever, just pure compassion. Why can't they just save us? Why can't they just set us free? Why can't they remove all the sufferings in the world? Why? So my current thinking, after thinking about it for a long time and observe what I see in the clinic, is suffering is the universe way to get us to choose unconditional love, because then we're truly free. Then nothing can hurt us. If we do love unconditionally, it will be like Jesus on the cross. Betrayal, physical hurt, emotional hurt, it doesn't change him one bit. Couldn't hurt him at all. So yes, I do feel suffering. I don't think suffering is necessary. Some people can love unconditionally without suffering. Maybe they have practiced this for lifetimes. But many people do heal through suffering because they exhausted all their options. Now they have no option. When they have no option, they're willing to give unconditional love a try. They're willing to exercise their choice and say, okay, I'm going to just love unconditionally for 1 minute and see what happens. And there were patients on my table, and they fake it. They say, okay, I'm going to love unconditionally, ex-wife, I love you unconditionally, I love you unconditionally. Then I say, hey, wait a minute, you're not doing this from your heart, you're doing this from your brain. It's very easy to tell. The channels do not lie. The channels always tell the truth. When we love unconditionally from our heart, all our channels run vibrantly, beautifully, vigorously. And that's when we thrive, no matter our condition. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Basically, thank Julie for all the questions. Yeah. Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
I
no, no. I
I
appreciate.
just asked too much, but you change your
No,
mind
no, no.
and you think different. I love your answer.
Yeah, I appreciate. I really, I'm very grateful. I'm not, you really ask a lot of good questions, and you follow each question with a deeper question. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Okay, you really strike my bell and allow me to ring, and hope what I said, resonate with, many of you. Okay, so today is the fifth talk. We talk about purpose and loving kindness. And tomorrow we're going to summarize, the five talks, and basically summarize into a set of principles and some of the tools that we can use, on a daily basis. Every day we have hundreds of experiences, and how we process them. If we can, process them with a different mindset, um, then we're moving forward. Okay. One of the mindset may be, if I say yes, that means I'm doing this, something complete 100% for myself. Okay. Including changing diapers, washing dishes, cleaning houses, or working, late into the night. Okay. Doesn't matter what we do, as long as we say yes, you know, because we want to exercise our choice. Okay, we always have a choice to say no. We can lose our job, but hey, we can say no. It's just, but if I want to keep my job and I say yes, and I do things, half-heartedly or unwillingly, I'm basically hurting my own career. I'm hurting myself. I'll be doing the same thing. So why not just do it 100% for ourselves? Okay, so there are some principles that we're going to, summarize and talk about um, tomorrow. And again, tonight's the recording will be up hopefully within half an hour on the Google Drive. Yeah. Yes.
John, I have something I want to respond. Do we still have time?
Yes. Wayne, please.
Okay, I like your conversation. And Julie's first question reminds me that there's a word about, there's a terms about education called the sense of purpose. And I think when we talk when we talk about something about education, we always think that it's for children, it's for kids, or it's for teenagers. But I think these things, the sense of purpose, is about all of us and everybody, including me. We need to think about the purpose we want to feel. What's the calling of our life? And the purpose is not just about the short term, but long term, um, during our whole life. So that for me, um, yeah, it's a new connection about what I know. So I want to thank you for your communication, and I wanted to thank Julie's question, and I like it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Okay. Yeah, when I, you know, the my understanding of purpose is quite different. Okay, it's like we need a purpose, right? No, we don't need a purpose, because that by itself is from the judgmental mind. Okay, if my purpose is to, you know, yeah, and to honestly, I've seen too many people going through trauma, and they somehow get better a little bit, not completely, and they start to feel like their purpose is to, help other people with the same trauma, and they haven't healed yet, and they take that on as their purpose. But what they're really doing, in my mind, is to, with the sense of helping other people fulfill some of their um, traumas, you know, to feel that they're doing something to heal themselves. But to me, the true healing comes from this connection back to loving kindness, back to unconditional love. If that is not the case, um, it's not healing. That's just my belief, right? Because that's what I see all the time. Is um, when we don't go back to our root, when we cannot love our parents unconditionally, whether we ever see them. If we, I honestly have treated people who have never seen their dad. Okay, and their mom is a drug addict, and they have addiction issues as well, and they were in and out of jail. And when they connect back to their parents, connect to the dad they've never known, their life changes. This sense of connection is not just for the person that we unconditionally love. It's really for ourselves. When we say I have a heart of gold, and through that I connect to loving kindness, and through loving kindness I'm going to connect to my dad, whom I never ever seen, who was the most irresponsible person that I ever known, who has hurt my mom and my family and myself tremendously. But my dad has a heart of gold. He had all these behaviors, but he has a heart of gold, just like mine. So when we, honestly, I treat men, right? My vow is to serve healers, people who have trauma, and I have no issue treating people with full tattoos, coming in and out of jails, because they have a heart of gold. And honestly, I wish everybody can witness what I witness on a daily or weekly basis. When we see people that the society label as problems or troubled or ruined people, and they absolutely have heart of goals, and when they connect, they change their lives right there, because they've never ever loved They were never loved before. So they have a lot of protection around them. They have so much protection around them. But when you get into their heart, it's so soft and tender and so loving and so thirsty to connect, to love and be loved unconditionally. Honestly, my patients are my inspirations. My kids are my inspirations. Everybody I know become my inspiration, because when people feel that their hearts are broken and they know they're not, and they make the connection right there and they change themselves, to me that's it's unbelievable already. um, yeah, we can talk about this for a long time, or at least I can. um, oh, there's one more. Glendy, come up. Okay, Glendy, please share.
Hi, John. Hi, Waylon. I just joined this room last few minutes, but I heard Julie's question, so I just want to share some of my feeling. Actually, what I try to say is sometimes a blessing is disguised, but while we are within it, like our mind and our heart is in a chaos, is crazy. That's why we feel hurt, and because the fundamental root is we judgmental to see everything. And after I hear John's sharing, and I truly, I mean, he guided me. So once I try to use the unconditional love, then my mind become peace, and that's the time you can think and you can see more clearly. So don't judge the current situation. I'm still in the process, but I can only say I feel much better than before. So it's a good try, and I just want to share this with you. That's it. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Glendy. Each and every one of us healing is critical. Is critical because when one person heals, we don't know the impact of that person's healing. It will have a ripple effect for sure. We don't know how far, how wide, how powerful that ripple can become. We're yeah, let's continue support and encourage each other, right? And keep going on this path. It's a very well worthwhile path. um, and we'll be doing this for ourselves, um, and in doing so, we're doing this for everybody else. you know so the thing that we do it for ourselves only, but because we're not selfish, it becomes beneficial for everyone who's willing and seeking. um, yeah, let's continue this path. It's really fun this way, actually. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. So I'm gonna sign off. Actually, I'm gonna stop recording.